"Come now, old sage," Mordenkainen said, swirling a goblet of dark wine, his grey eyes gleaming like moonlight on cold steel. "You speak often of the sundering and the splintering of the world, but have you ever heard the true tale of how mortal kind first earned its place amid the eternal forces? It is not all stones split and seas sundered, no. Sometimes, Elminster, history pivots not on armies, but on a single soul." Elminster leaned back with a knowing grin, puffing his pipe. Mordenkainen smiled and began. When the world was still young and raw, when the mountains had not yet bowed beneath the stars, and the oceans had not yet made peace with the shores, the gods warred against the Genies. The gods, beings of divine concept, claimed dominion over the destiny of the new world. The Genies, mighty children of the primal elements, rejected such rule, claiming that stone, fire, sea, and sky belonged first to them, who had shaped the raw stuff of existence from chaos. Between these two powers, mortals, poor, frail creatures of breath and blood, were little more than drifting leaves in a hurricane. It was then, amid this strife, that a girl was born in a nameless city of men. Her beauty, Elminster, by Mystra herself, her beauty, was no simple matter of symmetry and shine. Her presence bore a deeper radiance, a reflection of the untouched possibility that mortals held within them. Her smile was as the first moon rising above a newborn sea, and her laughter, God save us. Her laughter could have stilled even the blades of Ares or the curses of Beshaba. Word of her wonder spread, first whispered among merchants and sailors, then shouted by priests and sung by bards. It rose, higher and higher, until even the heavens themselves could not ignore it. Kor, the unbreakable, first turned his gaze upon her and was stricken. Then Hajama, the swift and the righteous. Then Najm, the glittering star of wisdom. Each beheld her, and each was consumed with the certainty that she must serve him, and him alone. They quarrelled as only gods can, their pride bleeding into the firmament, stirring new stars and trembling the air itself. The Genies, ever watchful of the heavens, took notice. The Grand Caliph of the Djinn, Lord of the winds that sweep between the stars. The Grand Khan of the Tao, who holds the bones of the earth in his grasp. The most respected Sultan of the Efreet, whose crown burns brighter than suns. And the Imperial Padishah of the Marids, Queen of the fathomless depths. Each beheld the mortal maiden and fell under her spell. And so it was that both gods and genies, forgetting their greater wars and ancient grudges, turned their ire upon one another, not for thrones or principle, but for the hand of a mortal girl who had not asked for their attention. Their anger cracked the heavens. Their passions stirred the seas to drown cities, raised mountains to crush nations. Firestorms raged where none had burned before. The winds themselves were whipped into madness. The mortals, helpless before the unfolding cataclysm, fled. Some abandoned their homes, their herds, their histories, becoming scattered peoples in distant corners of the world. These wanderers would in time found the nations you and I know as Faerun and Karatur. But others, Elminster, others stayed. They knelt beneath the storm and endured, for where could they run when the gods themselves chased the horizon? And what of the maiden? She fled into the southern jungles, weeping, ashamed that her existence had brought such ruin. There, in the deep green where vines thicker than ship's masts wound through forgotten valleys, she prayed, not to the gods, not to the genies, but simply to someone who might hear. And someone did. Fate herself, ancient and unknowable, appeared before her. Fate, who sees all ends and all beginnings, whose will even the gods must bow before in time. And for the first time in the long memory of existence, fate was moved by pity. She gazed upon the girl's sorrow, upon her beauty that had brought only misery, and made a choice. With a single whisper, she wove a glamour. The maiden's radiant form was hidden beneath the guise of a stooped, hideous old man, bent-backed, wrinkled, voice rasping like broken reeds. Thus disguised, the girl returned to the city of mortals, now little more than a shattered ruin caught between the rages of heaven and earth, and the gods and the genies. They searched frantically, their fury growing with each moment that she escaped their grasp. They clashed with renewed violence, but now, lacking the maiden's presence to anchor their passions, their fury spun itself into exhaustion. The heavens burned themselves hollow, the seas quieted, heavy with grief. The earth cracked, then healed. The wars sputtered and faded, for even gods and genies cannot wage endless battle without end. In the silence that followed, mortals emerged from the ashes, not as chattel, nor as children, but as survivors. The Zakarans, descendants of those brave few who had refused to flee, built anew upon the very ground that had witnessed the rage of the immortals. They named their land Zakara, and rightly claim it as the center of the world, the birthplace of mortal destiny. As for the maiden, some say she walks still, disguised forever, whispering destiny into the ears of kings and beggars alike. Others claim she became a spirit of the winds, a muse who inspires greatness in those pure of heart, and some few whisper, though they dare not say it aloud, that she was fate herself, testing the immortals and finding them wanting. Mordenkainen finished his tale with a nod, sipping the last of his dark wine. Elminster chuckled, a deep, slow sound.
Good tale, Greybeard. I'll wager half of it's true and the other half truer still. Would that more mortals remembered the power that lies in small hands and silent hearts.
Indeed, Mordenkainen said, and in the firelight, for a moment, his eyes seemed distant, as if watching the turning of yet another age. Where do genies make their homes? The people of Zakara believe that the genies live deep under the earth and sea and above the clouds, and that the evil Efreet live only in the anvils of the deserts and the hearts of fiery mountains. The sages and savants believe that the burning world is closer to the elemental planes than other regions of Altoril. This closeness may be the reason why vortexes to the elemental planes are more common in Zakara than anywhere else, since the 4 great genie types all live on the elemental planes. They use these vortices to get to Zakara. The Djinn are the only race of genies to dwell on the prime material plane. All others live on the elemental planes. In general, the elemental genies compete with the true elementals for dominion, with varying degrees of success. Conditions are most comfortable for the genies on the elemental planes, and their powers are at their peak there. In these homelands, genies are rulers. In Zakara, genies are the lords of the 4th quarter, of the empty corners of the world. They rule the wilderness and the harshest climates, the anvils and the mountains, far from men and their cities. In their homelands, though, the genies are civilized and urban, with cities and marvels of their own. The genies do not travel from one court to the next via the ethereal plane. They use permanent elemental vortices as shortcuts. The plane of elemental fire does not connect directly to the plane of elemental water, but it does connect to the planes of air and earth. Similarly, the planes of air and earth are not connected to each other either, but are connected to the remaining 2 planes. Genies of minerals and gemstones, Tao, embody the resolve of rock. Using innate magic, they move through the earth unimpeded, exploring depths inaccessible to most. The Tao are the genies of the plane of elemental earth, creatures with little sympathy for anyone but themselves and their profits. They live in a wretched underworld of perpetual darkness, where they toil for wealth as merchants and as miners. They lie and steal and kill as they contend with each other for position. They have wrested one of the richest sites of the plane of elemental earth, the great dismal delve, away from all contenders. Dao slaves mine it, and their masters reap the riches. The Dao rule absolutely within the delve, but they have little interest in expanding their domain as long as it remains profitable. Most Dao look inward to promoting their own status and wealth, and have little interest in conquering their plane the way the Efreet do. Their travels are almost always simply motivated by the desire for greater material riches, not an empire for its own sake. They will steal or lie for riches, but they don't go to war willingly. The most powerful Dao spend their time with the Great Khan, who rules them all. All Dao of the plane of elemental earth live in the Great Dismal Delve, a huge underground mazework with a land area larger than most prime material continents. The Great Dismal Delve is linked to pockets of all manner of elemental materials, so the Khan can call forth allied powers or unusual resources at needs. The population of Dao in the Delve is unknown, as is the number of enslaved creatures that continually work the tunnels and clear away damage from planequakes. The tunnels and underground roads of the Great Dismal Delve all lead to the sevenfold mazework, and most are populated with the toiling slaves of the Dao, those who cannot bribe, force, or bluff their way past the Dao overseers, and it takes a lot to impress them, are treated as escaped slaves. They are captured and set to work. Tunnel slaves patrol the corridors, kill vermin, dig out ores and gems, cart stones and rubble to use as fill elsewhere, carve new tunnels, improve or shore up old tunnels, and close any unauthorized tunnels made by other elemental creatures and used as escape routes by slaves. As genies of wind and skies, Djinn personify freedom and might. They can control wind and travel as swiftly as a breeze. The Djinn acknowledge few rulers. They live in free and nominally independent holdings on small clouds or pockets of earth floating in the sapphire sky of the plane of elemental air. They are fiercely protective of their isolation, and entering a Djinn freehold without invitation is reason enough for them to resort to harsh questioning or even imprisonment. The great Caliph of the Djinn rarely leaves the citadel of ice and steel. He is perpetually called upon to decide matters of state, matters of law, and matters of politics among his nobles. When he does leave, it is generally with an entourage of nobles to go hunting elemental creatures, though occasionally they go to the lands of Zakara to stir up trouble among the cities there. Djinn history claims that the first Caliph of the Djinn wrested this citadel away from Inix, the princess of elemental evil. The ruler. The ruler of all Djinn is the great Caliph Hussam al-Balil ben Nafat al-Yugayim, the master of the clouds and son of the breezes. His long list of other titles includes the commander of the four winds, defender of the heavens, prince of birds, storm of the righteous, and master of the air. Noble Djinn hate the Efreet for many reasons, but their slave-taking is one of the most infuriating to the Djinn. They will cooperate in any attempt to thwart the fire genies. Despite their haughtiness, Djinn respect individual achievement and often honor their servants. They cooperate with other creatures from the plane of elemental air rather than trying to enslave them. Their servants are retainers who may leave at any time, but they stay because they consider it an honor to serve. From time to time, a particularly driven noble Djinn will undertake either a raid or a crusade against the Dao or Efreet and seek to free slaves and embarrass opposing nobles. Since both Efreet and Dao are more powerful than Djinn, these expeditions are undertaken rarely. They depend on planning, stealth, and surprise for success. The Court of Ice and Steel has been sighted on other planes, and its unusual mobility has kept it out of the hands of the Efreet during at least one invasion when the Djinn militia was slow to react. In fact, the court of the Djinn is far more involved in the affairs of mortals than any other group of genies, except the Jann. The Djinn are said to be seeking a seal that has power over all Djinn and all invisible stalkers. It is said that a wise bearer of the seal can command their great caliph. The Jinnis fear that it might fall into the hands of the Yakman or the Efreet, and they will attack anyone they find who carries it. Others say the seal protects the bearer against all attacks by the Djinn and their servants. Efreet burn with the energy and unpredictability of fire. Their innate magic allows them to conjure flames from nothing and shape treasures within magical infernos. Many Efreet have wicked reputations as their fickle natures and love for dramatic conflagrations can be destructive. The rulers of the Efreet have successfully pursued a policy of conquest and expansion on their home plane, the plane of elemental fire. This policy has made enemies of all other intelligent races there. The capital city of the Efreet is the city of Brass, a huge and terrible cosmopolitan center on the plane of elemental fire, 40 miles wide. Its golden towers and ebony ramparts rise above a sea of flame, and its palace rises beside a fountain of fire. Noble Efreet fall into two camps, those native to the city of Brass and those who command the Efreet of the prime material plane. Nearly all nobles spend much time in the hunt. When hunting, noble Efreet enjoy the kill, but seldom participate in the work of wearing down the prey themselves. They watch as common Efreet and summoned creatures, such as hellhounds, harry the prey, then claim the kill at the last minute. They use fire falcons or other elemental flying creatures as hawks in their hunts. The noble Efreet consider toying with one's opponent an art form, and their ability at playing cat and mouse is remarkable. While most noble Efreet fill their palaces with rich works of gold, priceless ceramics, and masterfully woven rugs and tapestries, others merely create temporary illusory treasures to impress visitors. Female nobles are kept in seclusion, but have their own household hierarchies. They hold no official power, but the scheming nature of the Efreet allows many females to rule through figurehead males. The palaces of noble Efreet in the city of Brass are large, imposing, and swarming with servants. The palaces are all small fortresses as well as overflowing dens of slavery, able to keep out spies, assassins, hostile nobles, and the merely curious while providing spacious quarters for the noble family. A typical noble household consists of a handful of nobles and about 20 commoners, who serve as overseers and bodyguards, up to 100 Jann and other imported slaves, perhaps a dozen summoned intelligent elemental creatures for specialized tasks, a small stable of nightmares, and a brace of hellhounds or fire falcons serve the Efreet. In addition to Efreet outposts on the plane of elemental fire, 6 great pashas rule the Efreet of the prime material plane in the Sultan's name. Bazidan of the Flames, Rashid al-Niran, Sadiq the Smoky, Hajjaj, Umar al-Kushyar of the Golden Brow, and Razim the Incandescent. Each has a small number of noble Efreet as personal followers, though all publicly avow that true power and prestige lie only in the Sultan's court. The Efreet camps in Zakhara are generally deep in the desert, often in ruined or abandoned cities. If inns discover their camps, they move overnight to a new. In addition to Efreet outposts on the plane of elemental fire, 6 great pashas rule the Efreet of the location, either physically bearing all their goods or by transporting them away in the twinkling of an eye by genie magic. Marids surge with the power of the seas, using it to manipulate the waves or create water. These genies typically dwell in or near bodies of water, while gentle marids make homes amid springs, oases, and serene pools. Tempestuous marids inhabit sea stacks, whirlpools, and treacherous coasts. Marids vary in appearance, their bodies reflecting the colors of the waves, while distinctive fins and scales accent their features. Marids lend their powers and knowledge of the seas to those who defend the Marid's watery realms, or who offer them pleasing gifts. The Marid have even less of a government than the Djinn, though their greater personal power ensures that they have greater control over their home plane than the genies of the air have over theirs. All Marid lay some claim to nobility or even royalty, but the truly noble Marids are those who serve the Padishah and scheme to succeed to the rulership of the empire upon her death. Thus, noble Marids routinely ignore their lesser cousins, unless these can in some way affect their standing at court or in the succession. All Marids agree that the Padishah rules their loose empire, but often there have been several true heirs to the Padishah's throne simultaneously through the eons. The court of the great Padishah of the Marid is called the Citadel of 10,000 Pearls, an elaborate and graceful circular reef in warm waters on the plain of elemental water. It is full of bright corals, corroded copper doorways, giant clams, bubbling air fountains, curtains and carpets of kelp, and schools of every sort of fish. Some of these fish are guardians and others are servants, but all are entirely loyal to the Marids. The citadel contains about 100 noble Marids at any time. The courtiers of the Padishah are adventurers, storytellers, and braggarts. Few of the nobles are actually at court at any given time. Most of them are out in the seas seeking new adventures, new riches, and new sights to report to their ruler. When they are at the citadel, the noble Marids strive to outdo each other in their gifts and stories. Duels, wrestling matches, and even deaths among the highest nobles are common. Marids are champion tale-tellers, though most of their tales emphasize their own prowess and belittle others. Their love of song and story leads nobles to kidnap the greatest of Raoun for private performances at the citadel. When talking with a noble Marid, bards should take care to prevent from digressing into other matters. One further note of warning: Marids consider it a crime for a lesser being to interrupt them, and to so offend a Marid is a sure way to invoke its wrath. Mordenkainen leaned closer to the fire, his voice lowering, as if the very embers strained to hear the final threads of the tale. Yet the story does not end with the silence of the battlefield, nor with the maiden's disguise. No, old friend. There is more, and it is the truest part of all. In the quiet, after the gods and genies had exhausted their fury, Fate herself appeared once more to the maiden, no longer the weeping girl of old, but a figure tempered by trial and crowned by endurance. Fate spoke thus: "The gods and the genie lords could not return to punish her, for to do so would be to confess that they had been outwitted, tricked not by a rival deity, nor by a cunning genie, but by a mortal. Their pride, as eternal as their power, would never allow it. And so, the maiden was free, not merely from their clutches, but from their dominion. Fate stayed at her side for many years thereafter. In her true form, and sometimes once more disguised as a stooped old man, she taught the maiden the secret languages of wisdom, how to see beyond the flattery of kings, how to weave words that could bind spirits stronger than steel, how to inspire mortals without ruling them. In time, the maiden became more than beautiful, she became wise. Wandering the reborn cities of mortals, she whispered songs that would one day be sung as anthems. She gifted dreams that would shape mighty spells. She spoke truths that became the bones of great philosophies and the root of all lawful law. Before her time of wandering ended, she set down her wisdom on a collection of scrolls, a precious trove of knowledge, sealed away where only the worthy might find them. And so it was, Elminster, that when the first caliph of Zakhara rose to rule a reborn people, he discovered the maiden's scrolls. Guided by her words, he founded the enlightened faith, a beacon amid the chaos of the world. The mortals remembered her not as a nameless girl, but as the lawgiver, the first great teacher, the spirit who had tamed both gods and genies alike. And as for the maiden herself, well, She still walks the hidden paths of the world, it is said, luminous and unknowable. She has yet to choose her consort, for why should she hurry? Gods and genies are eternal after all. And she, mortal though she once was, is now beyond even their reach. Perhaps she will choose in a time yet to come. Perhaps she waits still, watching, weighing their hearts. Or perhaps Elminster. And here Mordenkainen's voice grew very soft, as if speaking a secret the world itself might fear to hear. It is they who await her decision, trembling as any mortal might. He sat back then, letting the fire crackle in the heavy silence between them. Elminster tapped the ashes from his pipe and gave a slow, deep nod.
A fitting end, and a reminder that not even the gods may rule all hearts.